Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you the one secret that completely changed how I learned English. And no, it's not watching movies or memorizing grammar rules or even living in an English-speaking country. In fact, this secret is so simple that you might laugh when you hear it, but it's also the reason I can think, speak, and write in English every single day without stress. I know what you might be thinking right now. How can one secret make such a big difference? Well, when I started learning English, I was just like most learners. I tried everything I could find. I went to classes. I read books. I watched English films. I memorized long lists of vocabulary. But every time I tried to speak, my brain would freeze. I would forget the words. My sentences were slow and broken, and I always felt shy and embarrassed. Then one day, something happened that changed everything. I discovered a new way to learn, not from a teacher, not from a book, not from a course, but from myself. This one change turned English from something I studied into something I lived. It made my brain start working in English naturally, like it was my second nature. And here's the best part, you can do it too. You don't need to spend hours every day. You don't need to travel abroad. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to know how to use this secret the right way. So stay with me until the very end of this video because I'm not only going to tell you the secret, I'm going to break it into simple, clear steps that you can start using today. Even if you are starting from zero, by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to make English a natural part of your life. And once you do that, fluency will not be a dream. It will be your reality. Chapter 1. The day I discovered the secret when I started learning English, I thought I was doing everything right. I went to language classes 3 times a week. I bought grammar books. I memorized hundreds of new words. I even downloaded English movies and tried to copy the way the actors spoke. But the truth is, I was stuck. I remember one moment very clearly. I was at a small party, and someone asked me in English, "So, what do you do?" Such a simple question, right? But my brain completely froze. I knew the words. I knew the grammar. But they were trapped somewhere in my head. I stood there, silent for what felt like forever, and then said something like, "In work office." I could see the person smile politely, but I felt embarrassed inside. This happened again and again. Every time I tried to speak, my sentences came out broken. Sometimes I mixed words from my own language with English without even realizing. Sometimes I forgot the most basic words, words I had written down many times in my notebook. And every time, I felt a little more frustrated. I started to think maybe English just wasn't for me. But then, one afternoon, something happened that completely changed my learning. I was walking home from class, feeling tired. I looked at the sky and thought in my own language, "It might rain later." Then suddenly I stopped walking. I thought, why didn't I say that in English? It was such a small thought, just 4 words. It might rain later. But in that moment, something clicked in my mind. I realized that I was always thinking in my own language and then translating into English when I needed to speak. That's why it was so slow. That's why my words felt stuck. I wasn't living in English. I was visiting it for short moments, like a tourist. That day, I decided to try something different. I told myself, from now on, I will try to think in English as much as I can, even when I am alone. No teacher had ever told me this. No book had mentioned it, but it made sense. If my brain could get used to thinking in English naturally, then speaking would feel easier too. And here's the surprise. I didn't need expensive courses. I didn't need to move to another country. I didn't need to spend hours memorizing difficult words. All I needed was to train my brain to use the English I already knew, not just when studying, but all day in small moments. At first, it felt strange. I was so used to thinking in my own language that switching to English felt like wearing shoes on the wrong feet. But little by little, something amazing happened. I noticed I could make small sentences in my head without effort. I am hungry. That car is red. I will call my friend later. These weren't big or complicated sentences, but they came faster and faster. After a few weeks, I started noticing the real change. I was no longer translating everything in my head before speaking. My words started to flow more naturally. My brain felt lighter, as if I had taken off a heavy backpack. And the best part? I stopped being scared of speaking. When someone asked me a question in English, my brain was already in English mode, so I could answer faster. I still remember the first time I realized how powerful this was. I was at a shop, and the cashier spoke to me in English. Without thinking, I replied, and it sounded smooth, not broken. I walked out of that shop with the biggest smile on my face. I felt free. I felt confident. I felt like English was no longer a mountain I had to climb, but a road I could walk every day. This is why I call it the one secret. It's not magic. It's not a shortcut. It's a habit of thinking in English daily. The more I did it, the more natural it became. And the more natural it became, the faster my English improved. In speaking, writing, even listening. If you are learning English right now and you feel stuck like I did, I want you to know something. You don't need perfect grammar to start thinking in English. You don't need a big vocabulary. You can start with what you know right now. Even short, simple thoughts in English will help you more than you can imagine. This secret changed my life as a learner. It gave me confidence. It gave me freedom. And it showed me that English is not something you study for a few hours a week. It's something you live every day in small, simple ways. But I didn't just wake up one morning and start thinking in English all day. No, there was a process. I started very small, and I built it step by step. And that's what I'm going to tell you in the next part, because the way you start will decide how far you go. But I didn't just start thinking in English overnight. There was a process, and it started in the simplest way. Chapter 2, Starting Small and Making It a Habit. When I first decided to think in English every day, I made a big mistake in my mind. I thought, if I'm serious about this, I need to think in English all day, every day. And guess what happened? I tried for one day, got tired, and gave up. That's when I realized something important. The brain doesn't like big, exhausting changes. It loves small, repeatable actions. Think about it. When you go to the gym for the first time, you don't lift the heaviest weight on the first day. If you do, you'll hurt yourself and never go back. It's the same with English. If you try to change everything at once, your brain feels tired and you stop. But if you start small, your brain says, "Oh, this is easy. I can do this." And then you keep going. So I told myself, I will only think in English for 2 to 3 minutes a day. Yes, that's it. just 2 to 3 minutes. You might be thinking, that's too small. How can that help me? But here's the truth. Small habits grow faster than big ones because you actually stick to them. In those first weeks, I didn't try to think about big topics like politics or science. I started with my own life, the things right in front of me. I would wake up, look at my breakfast, and say in my head, I'm eating bread. This tea is hot. When I opened the window, I would think, it's sunny today, or the sky is gray. These thoughts were short, simple, and easy. Sometimes, I imagined small conversations. For example, I would pretend a friend asked me, "What are you doing?" And I would answer in my head, "I'm cooking rice," or "I'm cleaning my room." I wasn't speaking out loud to anyone, but my brain was learning to create sentences in English without translating. Here's the spike moment. In the past, I spent hours memorizing grammar rules, only to forget them in real conversations. I used to read long lists of vocabulary, but when I tried to speak, my mind went blank. With this new way, just a few minutes a day, I remembered more and spoke faster. Because I was using the words in my own life, not just on paper. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You can read all the instructions, watch videos, and memorize the parts of a bike. But until you actually sit on the bike and start pedaling, even for a short time, you won't truly learn. Thinking in English is the same. Short, daily practice is better than one long session once a week. I also noticed something interesting. On some days, my 2 or 3 minutes turned into 5 or 10 minutes without me even trying. That's the magic of small habits. They grow naturally. You don't force them, they expand on their own. And here's something I want you to remember. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up every day. If you make one mistake, it's okay. If your sentence is simple, it's okay. The goal is not perfection. The goal is consistency. A small drop of water falling every day can fill a big bucket. I know some learners feel guilty if they don't study for hours. They think, if I can't do a big session, it's not worth it. But I want you to think about brushing your teeth. It only takes a few minutes, but you do it every day, and that's what keeps your teeth healthy. English is like that too. Short, daily thinking keeps your language alive. Of course, there were days when I forgot. Life gets busy. But the difference this time was, I didn't feel like a failure. If I missed a day, I just started again the next day. And because it was only a few minutes, I didn't feel stressed. It was so small that there was no reason not to do it. Little by little, this became my habit. I didn't even have to remind myself anymore. My brain started switching to English automatically for those small moments. Looking at the weather, thinking about my lunch, planning my evening. And because I was doing it daily, my sentences became smoother. I started to notice patterns, connect words faster, and feel more comfortable. Looking back, I can honestly say this was one of the best decisions I made as an English learner, to start small and make it a habit. Because a habit is like a seed. You plant it once, take care of it a little every day, and one day, you have a big tree. But small habits alone are not enough. They work best when they connect to your real life, the things you do every day without thinking. That's what I discovered next, and it made my English grow even faster. But small habits only work if you make them part of your real life, and that's what I learned next. Chapter 3. bringing English into real life. Once I made the habit of thinking in English for a few minutes a day, I realized something powerful. I could connect English to the things I was already doing in my life. I didn't need to find extra study time. I just needed to use the time I already had. It started with cooking. One morning I was making eggs, and instead of just thinking about what I needed to do, I told myself the steps in English. I cracked the egg and thought, I am breaking the egg. I turned on the stove. I am turning on the stove. I put the pan on the heat. The pan is getting hot. I added salt. I am adding a little salt. It felt almost like I was giving instructions to someone, but I was just talking to myself, in my head. At first, it felt a little funny. Who talks about their breakfast like that? But then I noticed something. I was using real, useful sentences. I was talking about real life, not random sentences from a textbook. And because I was connecting English to something physical, something I could see and feel, the words stayed in my mind longer. Then I tried it while walking to the shop. I looked around and thought, the street is busy today. That man is carrying a bag. The dog is running fast. It became like a game. I would try to find as many sentences as I could about what I was seeing. And here's the spike moment. One day, I even narrated myself brushing my teeth in English. I looked in the mirror and thought, I am brushing my teeth. The water is cold. My toothbrush is blue. I laughed at myself, but it worked. I was using English without sitting at a desk, without opening a book, without stopping my normal life. That's when I realized English had become my daily background music. It was always there, playing softly in my mind. I didn't have to switch it on anymore. I didn't need to wait for study time. I was learning while living. This is what I call no extra time learning. You don't need to find a free hour in your day. You can use the moments you already have. Walking, cooking, cleaning, shopping, waiting for the bus. These moments are gold for learning English if you use them. And the best part? You don't even feel like you're studying. I started bringing English into more and more parts of my life. When I cleaned my room, I would think I am folding the clothes. The floor is dirty. I am wiping the table. When I washed the dishes, I would think, this plate is clean. The water is hot. I need more soap. These sentences were short and simple, but I was building a habit of thinking in English all the time. Sometimes, I would even make small challenges for myself. For example, I would say, for the next 5 minutes, I will only think in English. I would do this while doing something simple, like making tea or walking in the park. It became like a mini-game in my head. And here's something interesting. Because I was doing this during normal activities, my brain started to connect English with comfort. It didn't feel like something stressful anymore. It felt natural, like talking to an old friend. Of course, there were still words I didn't know. For example, one time while cooking, I realized I didn't know the English word for spatula. So I made a note, looked it up later, and the next time I cooked, I used it again. This is one of the best parts of bringing English into your real life. You naturally discover the words you need. After a few months of doing this, my English thinking time grew without me forcing it. At first, it was just a few minutes a day. Then it became 10 minutes, then 20, then longer. English wasn't just something I learned anymore. It was part of my daily routine. If you are watching this and you feel you don't have time to practice English, Remember this, you don't need extra time. You can learn while you live. You can think in English while you cook, while you walk, while you clean, while you wait for your coffee. These small moments are enough to make a big change. But my journey didn't stop there. Thinking in English during daily life made me more confident, but I wanted to make my English even stronger. And the next step I took didn't involve speaking to other people yet. It was something I could do completely on my own, and it changed the way I spoke forever. But soon I found a way to make my English even stronger, and it didn't involve speaking to other people yet. Chapter 4, Speaking Without a Partner. When most learners think about practicing speaking, they imagine having a partner, maybe a friend, maybe a teacher, maybe someone online. And yes, speaking with another person is helpful. But here's the truth. You don't need a partner to start speaking better English. You can start improving right now, on your own, without waiting for anyone. I know this because I did it myself. In the beginning, I used to think, I'll practice speaking when I find a partner. But days, weeks, and even months passed, and I didn't find anyone consistent to talk to. If I waited for a partner, I would still be waiting today. So I asked myself a question. What if I become my own speaking partner? That's when I discovered a powerful technique called shadowing. Shadowing is simple. You listen to English audio and repeat what you hear at the same time, copying the speed, tone, and pronunciation. It's like you are the shadow of the speaker's voice. I started with short YouTube videos and podcasts. I would listen to one sentence, pause, and repeat it exactly the way I heard it. At first, it was difficult. My tongue felt heavy, and my pronunciation was far from perfect. But slowly, I started to notice something amazing. My mouth was getting used to moving in an English way. My sentences started to flow faster. Then I added another step, recording myself. This was scary at first. Nobody likes to hear their own voice. But I decided to be brave and do it anyway. I would play the original audio, repeat after it, and record my voice on my phone. Then I would listen back and compare. At first, I heard many mistakes. I realized I was dropping certain sounds or stressing the wrong words. But instead of feeling bad, I treated it like a game. Can I make my version sound closer to the original? Here's the spike moment. I realized I didn't just need a teacher to correct me. I could be my own best teacher. Every time I listened to my recordings, I was giving myself feedback. I could hear what sounded right and what didn't, and then I could fix it. Speaking alone also had another big benefit. There was no pressure. I could make 100 mistakes and nobody would laugh. I could repeat the same sentence 10 times until it felt smooth. I could experiment with my voice, try different expressions, and play with speed. It was my personal practice space. No judgment, no stress. I also started creating my own speaking challenges. For example, I would pick a topic, like my favorite food, and speak about it for 1 minute without stopping. I didn't care if I made mistakes. The goal was to keep going. Then I would listen to the recording, find the weak points, and try again. Sometimes I would do the same topic every day for a week, and by the end, my sentences were faster and my ideas flowed more naturally. Another time, I practiced explaining simple things around me. If I saw my phone, I would say, "This is my phone." I use it to call my friends. It's black and I bought it last year. If I saw my shoes, I would say, "These are my shoes." I wear them every day. They are comfortable. These little speaking moments added up quickly. The best part of speaking without a partner is that you control everything. The time, the topic, the pace. You don't have to wait for someone to be free. You don't have to feel nervous about your mistakes. And because you practice more often, your speaking improves faster. One day, after weeks of shadowing and recording myself, I listened to one of my old recordings. I was shocked. My voice sounded different. My pronunciation was clearer. My speed was faster. My confidence was higher. I realized that the person I had been waiting for, the perfect speaking partner, had been with me all along, me. If you are watching this and you think, I can't practice because I don't have a partner, I want you to stop waiting. Start today. Find a short audio clip, repeat after it, record yourself, and listen back. Do this every day, even for just 5 minutes, and you will see results. But as much as I loved speaking alone, I knew I couldn't stay in my safe bubble forever. The real test would be using my English with real people. And when I finally did, something amazing happened. But when I finally used my English with real people, something amazing happened. Chapter 5. Using the secret in conversations. After weeks of speaking alone, shadowing videos, and recording myself, I finally faced the moment I had been both excited for and afraid of, my first real conversation in English after practicing thinking in English. It happened in a small cafe. I was sitting at a table, enjoying my tea, when a tourist walked in. He looked around and then walked over to me. "Excuse me," he said, "do you know where the train station is?" For a split second, my old habit tried to take over. My brain wanted to translate his words into my language, then think of an answer, then translate it back into English. But before that could happen, something amazing occurred. I understood him instantly. It was like my brain skipped the translation step. The meaning of his words went straight into my mind in English, and my reply came out just as naturally. Without thinking, I said, "Yes, it's just down the street. Turn left at the traffic light, and you'll see it." The moment I heard myself speaking, I froze inside. Did I just speak without translating? Was that really me? The tourist smiled. "Thank you. Your English is really good." That compliment hit me like electricity. I wasn't expecting it. In my head, I still felt like a beginner who made too many mistakes. But here was a stranger telling me I sounded good, even natural. And that's when I realized this secret I had been practicing, thinking in English, was not just an exercise. It was a superpower in real conversations. Here's why it worked. I listened better. Because I was thinking in English, I didn't waste time translating. My brain was free to focus on the meaning, the tone, and the details of what he said. I replied faster. I didn't pause awkwardly or search for every word. My sentences came out more smoothly because they were built in English, not translated from my language. I felt more confident. I wasn't worried about being perfect. I was more focused on helping him understand me. That conversation lasted less than a minute, but it changed how I saw myself. For the first time, I truly believed I could speak English in the real world. Later that week, I had another chance to use my secret. I was at a bookstore, and the cashier started chatting with me about the book I was buying. She asked, "Oh, is this your first time reading this author?" Without thinking, I replied, "Yes, My friend recommended it. She said the story is really inspiring. She smiled and said, "Wow, you sound so natural." Hearing that again was like fuel for my motivation. And it made me realize, thinking in English isn't just about grammar or vocabulary. It's about connection. It makes you more present in the moment, so you can actually enjoy the conversation instead of fighting with your brain to translate every word. For beginners, I know this might sound scary, but here's how you can start small. Don't aim for perfect sentences. Forget about sounding like a dictionary. Focus on getting your message across. Even short, simple sentences can be powerful. Start with easy topics. Talk about your day, what you're eating, what you're doing. These topics are easier because you already know the vocabulary. Practice listening actively. Pay attention to the main idea, not every single word. You don't need to understand 100% to reply confidently. Focus on connection, not perfection. The person you're talking to wants to understand you, not grade your grammar. Celebrate small wins. Even a 30-second conversation is progress. Every time you speak, you're training your brain to think faster in English. Remember, thinking in English is like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And when that moment comes, when you have your first real conversation and you speak without translating, it feels like magic. But here's the truth. The biggest change wasn't just in my English. It was in me. Because when I started speaking without fear, I realized I wasn't just learning a language. I was becoming a more confident version of myself. And in the next chapter, I'll tell you exactly how that transformation happened. Chapter 6. Becoming your English self. There was a time when English was just a subject to me. It lived in my school books. It existed only during class hours, exams, and homework. When class ended, English ended. It wasn't part of my life. It was something I studied, not something I lived. But that has completely changed. Now, English is no longer just a language I'm learning. It's part of who I am. It's in my thoughts, my conversations, my habits. I don't study English the way I used to, I live it. And that shift, that change in identity, is what made fluency possible for me. I didn't even notice when it happened. One day, I was still forcing myself to think in English for a few minutes. The next, it was just natural. I would be cooking, and my mind would be describing the ingredients in English. I'd be walking down the street and making small observations in English. The sky looks so clear today. I'd be texting my friend in my native language, then switch to English without even thinking about it. And then came the spike moment, the day I realized I had crossed an invisible line. I was talking with a friend in my native language, and suddenly, without planning it, I used an English phrase in the middle of my sentence. Then another. And then, for a few minutes, my brain just flowed between both languages like water moving between two rivers. There was no switching anymore. It was one smooth stream of thought. That was the moment I knew I had become my English self. This wasn't about pretending to be someone else. It was about expanding myself. I wasn't replacing my first language. I was adding a new layer to my identity. English had stopped being foreign to me. It felt like home too. And here's the most important thing I want you to hear. If I could do this, starting with broken English, mistakes, and a brain that always wanted to translate, so can you. I wasn't born in an English-speaking country. I didn't have rich vocabulary at the start. I didn't have perfect grammar. I didn't have endless time or expensive courses. What I did have was a decision, the decision to make English part of my life every single day. And that's the secret I've been sharing with you. Think in English daily, even for a few minutes at first. Start small. Describe what's around you. Narrate what you're doing. Imagine simple conversations. Make it a habit. Tie it to your daily activities. Think in English while brushing your teeth, walking, or cooking. Bring it into your life. Watch videos, read short articles, listen to songs, all in English. Speak alone. Practice out loud even when nobody's listening. Use it in real conversations. The moment you get a chance, even if it's short, take it. I didn't wait for the perfect moment to start speaking in English. If I had, I would still be waiting. The perfect moment never comes. The only perfect moment is the one you create by starting now. I know what you might be thinking, but what if I make mistakes? Trust me, you will. I still make them. But mistakes are not the opposite of fluency. They are part of the journey to fluency. Every time you speak, even imperfectly, you're telling your brain, this is who I am now. I'm someone who speaks English. And the more you tell your brain that, the more it believes you. When I first started, I used to doubt myself. I'd think, maybe I'm just not good at languages. But every day I practiced thinking in English, that voice got quieter. And every time I had a real conversation without translating, that voice lost more power. Until one day it was gone. Now, I don't think of English as a skill I'm learning. It's simply a part of my life, like drinking water or walking. It's natural. It's effortless. And that's what I want for you. So here's my challenge to you. Don't wait until tomorrow. Start today. Start small. Speak to yourself in English for 1 minute. Think about your breakfast in English. Describe your room in English. Write one short text in English. That's it. That's the first step. And then, do it again tomorrow. And the next day. And the day after that. Because fluency isn't built in one big moment. It's built in hundreds of small, daily moments, until one day, you wake up and realize you don't have to think in English anymore. You just do. When that day comes, you'll understand something powerful. You haven't just learned a language, you've become a new version of yourself. And that version of you? It's waiting for you to start right now. If you found these tips helpful, hit the like button so more learners can discover them. Subscribe to my channel for more simple and powerful English lessons like this, where I share real strategies that actually work. No boring textbooks, no endless grammar drills, just practical steps you can use every single day. And in the comments, tell me, will you start thinking in English today? Don't just watch and forget. Take one small step now. Remember, every single thought you have in English is a step toward fluency, and your future fluent self will thank you for starting today.